Nation, we're here. Jim Gazzolo, Heath, Schroyer. Countdown to the Armageddon that is Gatsby. That's all I'm going to say. It's coming.
It is
Get
coming.
out of the way, people.
It is coming. It is
Get
coming.
out of the way.
5 tables left. We should be sold out by the time this airs.
Put the women and children to bed and good. Just whoa. All right, a lot of news this week. Let's start off with the big one. You made an announcement about track and coach.
Yep. Coach Gilroy. Yep.
What? Obviously, you can't say much, but
No, I mean, obviously,
he's been put on administrative leave.
for sure. I mean, he's right now he's on administrative leave, and there's policies and procedures within the university and within the state that we're following, and we'll let the process run its course, and we'll go from there. And that's really, honestly, as simple as I can make it, Jim.
Yeah, tough situation, but the track team had a good weekend.
They did. I mean, there's a great culture within the program, and I think that for them to go out and perform the way they did, with getting that news on Friday, says a lot about the character of that team.
We're a couple of days close. We're within a month almost of the basketball tournament right here at the Southland, and of course, the big question is your men's team going to make it?
I sure hope so. It would be a I would be very disappointed if we didn't. You do a lot of work to host the tournament. It's an unbelievable opportunity for our community, for our university, and for one of our teams to literally not be in the top 8 to make it is really unacceptable, and it'd be something I'd be very disappointed in.
And personally, you used a lot of political clout to get it here.
For sure. Well, and I'll tell you why. Because I knew, after all the things that we went through, that our men's basketball program and women needed something to kind of get them going. Like we needed to become very relevant quickly in basketball, and to be able to host a tournament was part of the reason why we did that. Just like having an MTE tournament at home early in the season, and that didn't turn out very well either. But all those things were put in place to allow us to have a great showing in the tournament in our own building. So for us to not make it would be something, like I said, would be very disappointing, to say the least.
Must win against Lamar on Thursday night.
I think right now,
They're almost wins, almost.
I think Lamar is definitely a must win, especially at home. You can't lose games at home, and we have not been very good at home. We haven't been very good on the road either on the men's side. But right now we need to figure it out, and hopefully
figure it out quick.
And hopefully the Lamar game is the first one that we can kind of get right and move forward from there.
Well, let's talk about women's basketball then. At least a little better subject right now. You're locked in 4th place, tied for 4th, but you're in pretty good shape you're going to make that tournament.
I think so. But my goal and our goal is not. We've talked about it a little bit here, but my goal is not to make the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, my goal is to win the tournament.
Yeah.
And become a. Look, and I'll say this, and I've said it on the record. This is the best basketball job, men's and women's, in our league. We have the best facilities. We have the best town. They're both funded at the top of the league, and we host the tournament. So
and you have the top attendance now.
100%. And so, my goal is not to make the tournament. My goal is not to be in the top 4. I mean, that's great if we can be in the top 4 and then we get a bye. But my goal is to win championships. Yeah. And that, we have a window here for us to do that, and that's my expectation.
And it's also you brought them here to sell because you wanted to help build the community after the hurricanes.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't work if you're not in it.
For sure. I mean, it's, don't think for a moment that, I'm not hearing from the conference office too about, the pressure for us to be in the tournament because, they want to sell tickets too. And then, so it's, it's a huge economic impact on everything. If one of our teams, especially if our men's team, does not make the tournament.
Yeah, it would be a black eye.
For sure.
But then one thing is you would please a lot of people who were kind of upset you got all the tournaments.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey, listen. I mean, there's every story and every.
You're the villain.
Everyone needs a villain, right? And we are the villain. And but instead of hiding from that, own it. I mean, I own it every meeting we have in the Southland. Everywhere I walk around, I mean, everyone needs a villain, and I'm okay to be the villain.
Are other ADs giving you little shots in the ribs or
Not
something?
yet, but they're starting to, little innuendos. And listen, I get it. I'm a big boy. I get it. I understand. And but hopefully we can turn around Thursday, because obviously for us not to make the tournament is just something that's just unacceptable here.
And softball starting up really quick, but we'll get into this at the end of the show. But Wednesday, which is before this show airs, you're going to have a huge day when it comes to signing for football.
It's a huge deal.
We're going to talk about that at the end of this show. But realistically, did you think you would get this many this year? 26?
I'll tell you what, at the start of the year, I was a little bit, concerned about it, just like, hey, we weren't very good, but they just worked their tails off. I mean, Coach Goff and his staff are just tireless workers, and so I'm really, really excited about where that program's at.
When we come back on Poke Nation, we'll meet Gabby Moore, the new coach of women's tennis, off to a 4-0 start. Hey, at least you got somebody going right now. We'll be back on Poke Nation after this.
Welcome back to Poke Nation. It is a pleasure. Coach Gabby Moore, women's tennis. Welcome to Poke Nation.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here this morning.
Well, thank you. And
First time women's tennis ever been on the show.
for sure.
Well, hopefully a lot more.
We're undefeated.
We are.
Well, first of all, and thank you so
Wait a
much
minute,
for.
we're undefeated? How many matches have you won?
See, I told you off the air what you have to deal with. But thank you for helping him with his collar, and the one jacket that he owns his entire life. So thank
Looks
you for
good,
that.
though.
Yes.
But
People
no,
are used to it.
but Coach, first of all, you're off to a great start, undefeated, and you have a home match this weekend. But talk about what the transition's been. Obviously, this is your first year here at McNeese, and I know the type of program you inherited. And what you've been able to do up to this point has been phenomenal. So talk about where you're at, talk about the girls, and a little bit about the program right now.
Sure. So personally, coming through the door, even when I was hired, one of the biggest things for me was just the culture and just the community base and the fan base. And I felt like this was home and a family. And that was important to me just as my individual wants and needs. But as a coach, that's top on my list as coaching, just that family-oriented, environment and culture. And that is something that we had worked really, really hard in the fall just to create. Obviously, with any transition, with any change in coach, with any change in players, it's always going to be a building process, So we focused really, really hard on just having that family environment, a lot of team building, a lot of off-court work, honestly, to get us to where we are now at 4-0. And I think going into this season, we talk about energy and having discipline and, accountability. And, those have been our key core values this season. So we're really excited, and it's been showing on the court, and we just want to keep going with that record.
It's funny because when you have a successful coach, right, no matter what sport, they always have the core values, right? Whatever they are, and they're always, they're usually similar, but they all have them, and you know them off the top of your head. Your kids know them, and that is what was missing from this program when you took over. And you being 4-0 is indicative of the culture that you're developing. Talk about your feelings on Lake Charles. So you obviously you came from Jackson, Mississippi.
Right.
And you moved to Lake Charles. Talk about your experience here so far.
So far, it's been amazing. And that's one thing I always talk about personally is I would have never made a jump in a decision unless I knew that this is what I felt was home. The alum have been extremely supportive. We have a humongous tennis community out here that is incredible. Something I haven't seen before. It's top notch, and just the environment, the students, the athletes, our administrative staff, we're so supportive. And I feel like without support, we have no success. And that was something that's has really changed the game for us. And I love it here. It just feels like a family. Everyone's a McNeese fan. Everyone wants everyone to do as best as they can. And if we continue with that streak, we're going to be in really good shape all across the board in athletics.
One of the things about tennis here before was it didn't get a lot of attention. Now all of a sudden it's getting a little more attention. What have you seen from kind of a fan base as far as people actually interested in tennis And how do you think you can make that grow with a home game or a home match this weekend?
Great question. I mean, to be honest with you, I think it all goes back to the family. It goes all back to the experience. I think our alum, our fan base, they want the experience. They want to be close. They want to know the girls. They want to have relationships with them, and I think that's important. With the tennis community that we have, we've gotten so much support just because our girls are in the community. They're going out. They're meeting new people. They're playing tennis with, with fans, with friends, and they're making relations. And I think that's what McNeese Athletics is about, is making those relations, having a good experience, an environment, and our fans want to be a part. They want to be sitting, if they could sit next to us, they would. If they could come to every practice, they would. So as far as support, I mean, obviously, even as a player, we've always been a sport that's kind of, underlooked, and we understand that. But as far as our fans and the people that support us and want, to learn more about tennis, they're there. And I think we've made that relationship with them, and we're continuing to do that with putting ourselves out there in the community and, saying, hey, having that open family relationship with.
That seems to be the biggest thing I've seen from McNeese, especially the last 3 years, is the ability to get in the community, become a part of the community. Selling that, is that easy to sell to athletes, especially ones that aren't from here?
No, it's not easy to sell, but I think it's who you're bringing in as well. As a coach, who you're recruiting. I'm recruiting not only talent, but I'm recruiting character. I'm recruiting girls who want to do that, who are open to build relationships, who want to be in the community, who want to make McNeese better, who want to make the tennis team, successful. So once you're getting those core values in the athletes, it all comes together.
Is it hard to recruit, because you're not only recruiting against other schools that are bigger, but you're also recruiting against the fact that a lot of kids that want to go pro? How do you kind of judge where the kids are so you go after the right kids?
Well, it just depends. I think, especially with tennis now, there has been a huge change in our intercollegiate association where they're making a lot of roads to be able to go pro after college tennis. And it's with the resources, and McNeese has those resources. And, we're just wanting to use them. Whatever we can to make them better people is our biggest goal, is to make them better people on and off the court.
When we come back after this, we'll have more with Gabby Moore and the tennis team at McNeese State. This is Polk Nation. We're back on Polk Nation with tennis coach Gabby Moore, 4-0 tennis coach Gabby Moore.
Retire. No, I'm just kidding.
That's you, isn't it? Right there. Take the win and get out of town.
Go.
Listen, I'm telling you, as a former coach, it's winning. People have no idea how hard winning is. It's hard.
Absolutely.
It's really hard.
One thing that's interesting about individual sports, especially like tennis, is the world of NIL and the world you're in now is different, because they can go make money on the side, which is different than in a team sport, more oriented to where they kind of need help from other people. They can almost do side things. Are you fighting a lot of that, or has that not come up yet?
Well, I think with, now, at first, internationals couldn't make, most of my whole team is international.
Yeah.
And at first, with those deals, I don't think they were able to make money. Now I think they're able to sign with, the NILs. Back home, which is giving them more opportunity. So that really hasn't been an issue for us at all. It really hasn't affected us how it would maybe impact basketball or football or another bigger sport.
So, Coach, you talked about in the last segment, the things that you've done in a community, things you've done with team building, and it's really funny. We joked about this off air, but I'm going to say it on air. All the things that you just naturally said is exactly the reason why I wanted to hire you, and you were a target for us to bring you here. Talk about some of the team things that you've done, team building, some of the things you've done in the community with your program, up to this point. Tell Polk Nation some of the things that you've done.
Yeah, so personally, I'm very outgoing. And I think that was the one thing I always remember, going through the door and having my meetings with my kids. And I like to be where they are. I mean, I like to be in the room. I'll go in the locker room. I'll spend time with them there. They could come into my office. I have an open door policy. Let's sit down, let's talk, because I think coaching sometimes is just more than coaching. You want to be a mentor. You're building these kids in 4 years that are critical to their growth, as young ladies, young men, whatever the case may be, and just getting to know them on a deeper level. We do a lot of journal work, so a lot of writing. There'll be times where we just write. We talk about what we want in this team. We do journaling. This past trip, we were, at Ruston, and we had a rain delay. And we talked about controllables and uncontrollables. It was a meeting that I thought, like, in between time would take 30 minutes. It went into like a 2-hour conversation. And just having them talk and get to learn, who they are, and to learn each other as teammates. A lot of team building. If we have free time, we'll try to do stuff together, whether go out to dinner, whether we're on the road, and we could do a team activity somewhere, go bowling, go, to see a movie or do something. But it's all about that relation, because what I have experienced in a championship coach is when they're out there competing in a championship, it's going to be more than talent that gets you that win. It's going to be unity. It's going to be those little things that they're fighting for each other, that it's going to get that over the hump. It doesn't come down to talent at that point. Both teams that are playing are talented. We know that. But when it comes down to it all, it's going to come down to who wants it more, who is a unit, who's going to buy in, and who can be coachable.
With it all being international, does that make it easier for the culture to build or harder for the culture to build? They do all have a similar background coming here, but they all have different backgrounds before that.
For sure. So I think it really does help because we're all learning something different from each other. So all of them, I'm really big on being a diverse team, and we have players from all over different countries. And I learn from them, they learn from each other. They learn different things within their culture, and they bring it together, and it becomes a family. I think it's really nice to have people from all over the place, all over the country.
So, Coach, okay, so obviously we're in the preseason right now. We're 4-0. We have a match here on Saturday, 1 o'clock. Talk about when we get into league play, because it all comes down to, right, winning a championship and winning a Southland championship. Where do you think you are, and what are the things that, as a group and as a team, you have to improve on?
Sure. So, everyone, we were saying we're 4-0, we're 4-0. And yes, we are 4-0, but I think our mental headspace, we're not worried about record. We're worried about going out there and competing every single match, every single game, every single practice. And, even with the teams that we are 4-0 with, they come out and they compete. And we've been tested mentally. We've been tested and put in very uncomfortable situations on the court in these last few games where they're learning, because it's only going to get more competitive, and we're going to have teams coming up where, we're going to be also put in hard situations. We're a sport where it's not basketball or football where you could sub someone out when they're not doing well,
That's
right?
That's right.
Or where, it's a big point and you need your key player. Once you're in, you're in.
You're in,
Mentally, physically, emotionally, once that person's on that court, you can't remove them. So every day we're just focusing on the little things again, just that energy, having mental toughness, having grit. Those are the things that I think are getting us to the 4-0 record, and that we want to continue every single match. We're just worried about winning every single match.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I'll be on the first one to tell you, and Jim, we've talked about this before. I don't know everything about tennis. When I hired Gary Goff, I didn't know everything about football, but I know what coaches are, right? And I know the intangibles it takes to win and the intangibles it takes to run a program and lead a program. And I'm telling you right now, Polk Nation, this coach right here, Gabby Moore, is going to do wonderful things with women's tennis, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
When we come back, we'll get Coach's final comments after this on Polk Nation. We're back on Polk Nation. Interestingly about the tennis, man, you got a tennis match this week?
I tell you what, she, and Polk Nation can see, all the things that she talked about, her core values, what she does in the community, just her presence and energy is why that, I really, really went to bat and recruited her really hard to come here, because she was exactly what that program needed, because she is the antithesis of what was here before her.
Well, that's obviously the results are showing that. Mm-hmm. All right, I want to get back to the recruiting thing, because 2 years ago you couldn't recruit anybody here. You had no housing, you had no facilities. Now all of a sudden you're going to have, I've heard, as high as third in FCS and total national recruiting. There's not a lot of people to put those things out there, but you get 26. You get a guy from South Alabama that comes here instead of Louisiana Tech and other places. You've made crossroads to the kid from Iowa State to come here. Right. All of a sudden you're getting some name guys too, but what do you like about what's going on in football? Because now you got 92 kids coming out.
Well, I'll tell you this. The thing I like about where Coach Goff and the program is going is that There's a great energy. There's a great culture. We didn't have a bunch of kids jump in the portal.
No.
And that goes to show the relationships that they've built with these kids, throughout the year, and a year that was kind of tough.
Oh, yeah.
But they know. I mean, there is a sense of urgency every single day in that program, and it starts at the top. It starts with Coach Goff. I love where they're at. They are tireless workers, and the thing and this is from experience. Coach has won everywhere he's been. He's built programs. But he knows exactly the type of player that he wants. He is not going to, he's not going to take too many chances with culture. He knows exactly what he wants from a blueprint standpoint. He goes and recruits it, and I just love what he's doing and where they're recruiting at.
And he didn't hit the portal hard. He only got 4 or 5 from the portal. He kept it pretty minimal, exactly positions he wanted for certain things. He kept it to where I like the fact that with no junior class, with no real senior class at all, he went and got junior college kids and brought them here on campus early so that they could become leaders.
Right.
Because it's when you don't have a senior class, you have a void of leadership.
Oh, for sure. And listen, he we've said this. He was a 4th head coach in 5 years, so we've never had any type of rhythm from a recruiting standpoint for years.
No momentum.
Yeah, I mean, they're just you hire a new coach, people leave, you scramble. Hire a new coach, people leave, scramble. Well, this is the first time we've had some continuity in our class. I think it's going to show dividends. And the great thing about what Coach is trying to do is he's trying to even up the classes. And I think we have 4, maybe 5 kids that are seniors this year.
Yeah.
So we went into the JUCO ranks, brought in some really, really good players that I love. They're mature. The thing I've always loved when I coached about JUCO kids is they're used to a Happy Meal after the game and riding a van or a bus for 8 hours. So they get here and they're appreciative, they're hungry, they're excited. But I love what they're doing. I mean, just the little stuff that he does on a daily basis where all these kids are eating breakfast, all these kids have check-ins, all these kids, I mean, we had over a 3.0 GPA in academics. We were one of the least penalized teams in the country this year. All that stuff goes back to discipline. And our talent level is now is better. Our program is more established. We're gonna make some real strides next year.
You're at 3.0, what, 3 years after academic probation, coming off academic probation. Right. So that shows a culture change in itself. I think the biggest thing to me is not only that the kids stayed in the program, but they kind of bought into the program even more so. In fact, they've accepted the fact that, and him and I talked about it a little bit last week about the fact that when you bring junior college kids in, this was a program where he brought a lot of kids in from above, coaches from above. And when you come here, all of a sudden it's like, okay, what don't we have?
For sure.
Here with junior college kids and that, it's, oh, look what we got. And that seems to be the biggest difference.
Well, it's the same thing when I hired Gary, right? Is that I wanted someone that was doing this. Elevating and moving this way in his career, not someone going down. And the 2 previous head coaches, they came from South Florida and from UTSA or LSU or what have you. And it's just a different mindset. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's just a different mindset on a daily basis. It all starts from the top, and I love what they're doing, and we got a long way to go here, but I'm excited for spring ball.
Well, it's like I always said, it's easier to go from poor to rich than rich to poor.
No doubt about it.
You want to have what you. All right, you got another little less than a minute left. Go hit them. Let's talk about.
So first of all, are you going to
I
to Gatsby this year?
I think we are. I think we are going to go.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be great.
I got to find some clothes to wear though.
Yeah, I do. Well, I know you don't own a tux. I mean, you own one jacket for goodness sake. So we can go rent you a tux. But I will tell you this: we have 5 tables left. We film on Monday, so by the end of the week we should be sold out. But it's going to be off the charts. People are really excited about it. I'm excited about it. And if you are watching this and you want to go, make sure you look into getting a table because honestly, we have 5 left.
I want to thank Gabby Moore for joining us. We'll see you next week on Poke Nation.